Hey everybody. I'm not sure how many will tune in tonight because this was a spur of the moment thing, but welcome to another live stream. And this is going to be a little different than what you may be used to from me. Normally around this, like a Tuesday night or sometimes a Monday night in the past, I would be doing not so much coding. I would be doing the prep work for a recording of a podcast I've been doing every week since a little over a year ago now, called the Our Weekly Highlights podcast. So I figured, well, instead of just doing this in isolation, the prep work and the actual recording itself, why not do it live for anybody who's interested, kind of to see how it's done behind the scenes. You may have seen me show you how a curation is done when it was my turn to curate the particular issue. But this is something I do every week, no matter if I'm the curator or not, is the audio kind of summary of the highlights and kind of what goes into that. So welcome Unicorn Coder. Thanks for joining. Let me bring in the chat. It's always good to have you here. You've been doing some great streams on your own, and definitely curious where you go from there. Definitely check Unicorn Coder out. They are on Shiny Cow, so you can find Unicorn Coder as well as the rest of our very enthusiastic group on Shiny Cow at our podcast at shinyapps.io/shinycow, which I might as well just put that in the chat. Did I put a shout out in there? No, I didn't. Let's do the plug here. I should have done that earlier, but you know, life is life. So that is the Shiny app that you can see everybody's streaming schedule. All right, well, let's get right to it. And I will first show you a little bit behind the scenes of kind of some of the back end that I use in terms of serving out the episodes. And let's flip that bit here. Okay, here we are. So this is kind of like the after the publishing steps. I'm going a little out of order here, but I use a service called Fireside. It's like a SaaS kind of thing for podcasters, where they take care of the hosting of the files. They take care of setting up your feeds to the different podcasting catchers out there. And what was attractive about this service is that it's designed by a professional podcaster and obviously very good with web technology as well. But his name is Dan Benjamin, and he literally saw an unmet need of a dedicated service that doesn't try to do too much at once. And I've been pretty happy with it. It's always been reliable. And the one time that I had a snafu, Dan was quick to respond back at a support request. So what you're seeing here is a bit of the metrics that we have. So we now have over 9,200 downloads total. So we are creeping up to a pretty cool number there. And then I also get the breakdown per episode as well. And this is what it's looking like lately. Seems like we have a pretty solid audience. And now I won't kid anybody. I'm not exactly a viral podcaster, if you want to call it that. So I never expect to get like tens of thousands of downloads in an episode or anything like that. It's a niche of a niche of a niche, you might say. So frankly, anytime I break the 200 mark, that for an episode, that's like crazy to me. So we've been having some nice numbers here, and you can see on the first day of each, or the first release day, if you will, we usually get between 60 and sometimes over 100 downloads, which is really cool. And so it's always fun to look at that. Oh yeah, you're saying Python podcast gets about 3,000 listeners. Yeah, certainly. I'm sure Python has a lot of cool podcasts in there, and data science certainly does as well. And this one's a little different, where it's not meant to be a huge discussion. It's really meant to be roughly 10 to 15 minutes of just my take on the highlighted stories, kind of giving my perspective on them and how it might relate to everyone in the art community and in the data science community. So it's a different thing than what I usually do, which I'd imagine for those that watch this on the VOD and hear me talk about this, they may be wondering, well, Eric, what about the one you actually have a nickname about? I admit this whole Our Weekly one was in essence an experiment to see if I could somehow, some way, do something on a regular schedule. Those of you who've actually followed me from the beginning, which I'm not sure if they're on here or not, know that my release schedule for the main show that I used to do was not exactly consistent. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We don't have to get into it now. But I took this upon just my own initiative. Nobody on the Art Weekly team asked me to do this. They had actually done a clever version of it a few years ago where it was actually text-to-speech kind of recognition of kind of AI in there. So it wasn't like real people doing it. But I figured that had been off for a while. This was a cool way to give Our Weekly a little more press, I thought. Even if it was, like I said, a niche audience. And frankly, it was a test for me. So I wondered if I could stick with this. I wasn't sure. After the first few episodes, I seemed like it was, NLP. I think they were doing stuff like that. And the founder of Our Weekly, Wolfram Chin, is a brilliant developer. He's done so many slick things on the back end, which I talked about the last time I did a live stream about Our Weekly when I showed some of the tooling behind the scenes. But anyway, back to this. After a few episodes, I thought I was kind of onto something, but the key was consistency. Well, I mentioned it at the top, I just hit the year mark on this, so we're at episode 56 total. We're about to do 57 tonight. So it shows me that if I can budget the time, I can do it. Now, one would think that something that is about 10 to 15 minutes in length, released every week, wouldn't be that big of a deal. Well, ironically, it's kind of an inverse relationship in podcasting between the length of your episode and the effort it takes to make it. I kind of heard other people say this, but I didn't really know until I did it. These are actually some of the hardest to do because first, I don't want to just read the whole site of each highlight. That'd be boring. So I want to put it in my own words. But like I said, I make a conscious effort that this is not a lengthy listen. Everybody's busy. Everybody has so many demands on their time. Obviously, the pandemic has definitely put a lot of monkey wrenches in many people's lives, myself included. So I respect everybody's time. And frankly, I've always likened that this is something you can listen to while doing other things. Maybe you're eating lunch and you want to hear about some art stuff, or you're doing some housework like I typically do. Every time I do housework, I have a podcast or a stream on. So a lot of times when I interact with some of the people I follow, I'm on mobile and I'm probably doing dishes or something. So, but I figured this was something that you could listen to quickly and at least get you connected a little bit with what our curator team thought were like the 3 top or 2 top stories of the week. So yeah, so there's definitely some interesting bits here, but I figured I'll show you what I mean by this prep work tonight. And then if everything goes to plan, I will actually record it. And then I'm not sure if I'll actually edit it on the stream, but at least you'll see how I kind of transition from the pre-work to the actual recording. So I guess I should have for those that are new to this, although it looks like I got some people here that are familiar with it already. First, hello, we Beseda Buddha, welcome, and it's great to have you here. It's nice that you've been enjoying it. I might very much appreciate that. That is one thing that when I do these kind of things, I definitely hear a few positive feedback, kind of, responses. But, like I said, everybody's pretty busy, so sometimes you don't know how it's being received. But I think we've got an niche here. So, okay, so this week's issue was released on yesterday morning, I believe. The curator was Colin Fay, who everybody who's watched my previous stuff on the Shiny Dev series knows I'm a big fan of him and the team at ThinkR. They're responsible for Golem, my favorite Shiny package, to turn an app into a package. So he always does a great job. And we got 3 very, I'll say, different highlights this week, which is good. I like having variety. It can be a challenge, but I still like the variety. We'll do this one first. It's called Art Jasmines and the Watercolors, and that's going to be about generative art from R. Next one is a package called Clockify for tracking your time within R. How cool is that? And the last one is a dive into the 4 pipes of Magritte. I always wonder if I'm saying Magritte right. That's the way I've kind of been instilled in my head. And so that's going to be a slightly shorter one, but it's got some nice content there as well. So this is, now we're going to get into actually what I do with this. So it's sometimes hard to know which stories are going to be in the highlight at the final, because sometimes we have ties in our voting. So the other challenge of this thing is that while most podcasts can prep their episodes like a full week in advance, or like take more than a couple days to prep for it, I technically don't know what the final selection is of these highlights until either A, the voting is so clear cut, or B, it's when it's actually released. So it's short, but it's also a short prep time too. So it's not just the recording of the final episode, it's also the prep time I have, because I don't want to be later than Wednesday to get this out. That would be kind of silly to me. So I was getting them out on Tuesdays before, but life has been a little more challenging. So I use Wednesday as like my release day now. So anyway, let's get into this. So what I typically do, and I'm going to do some resizing here, so bear with me a second, is I will have the story on one side, and then I will have my notebook on this. Oh, I got to shrink that a little bit. Hold on. So this is another little bit behind the scenes is I live a very, you might say, mobile kind of setup where I don't know what device I'm going to be on when I get the inspiration to flesh out these recordings or the prep work of these recordings. And so I wanted a solution where I could write notes in Markdown, because I write Markdown and everything now. Markdown for everything, I should say. And I wanted it synced on multiple devices that I use, and to be backed up, in a robust way, but encrypted. And what you're seeing on the right here is an app called Standard Notes. Let me minimize this sidebar here if I can. Let me see if I can. Okay, good. Resize this a bit. So what I do, in fact, I'll move the chat out of the way a little bit here. I'll bring it back in a little bit. Hold on. Okay, I knew that was gonna do that. Let's go back to desktop. Okay. This app is called Standard Notes. There is a free version, but if you pay the premium subscription, you unlock a bunch of extensions for it. But this thing has been a life productivity hack for me. because now I can keep in Markdown but sync this wherever I want. And so I'm using the Linux client right now, but there's clients for Windows, Mac OS. You can also just log in on the web. I believe it's an Electron-based app, and it is reliable. It's no frills, but it does what it's meant to do, and it does it pretty well. So every episode, I make a new page in my notebook, and I put kind of the links at the top. All my show notes have the same format, where I give like a kind of a short title based on the 3 or 2 highlight stories. Then I give the links. First, I always give a link to the curator of the week, and this time it's Colin. Then I give the links to each story, and then a direct link to the full issue. So very typically brief show notes, but where I put things that are extra or in the supplements section. So we're going to add probably a few more tonight as I finish the prep work for this. That way people can kind of see maybe things I mentioned during the summary of a highlight, if they want to follow up more. So I do post on Twitter after the release, so I just kind of flesh out certain bits of it. I haven't finished all of it yet, but I always try to tag the highlighted story author. That's a nice way to say thanks to them a little bit. Then I'll have an intro, which I probably won't write verbatim tonight because I kind of have that by muscle memory, although I always need to record what episode number it is because honestly I lose track. We're at 57 now. It's kind of a weird number, so I have to write it down. And then I just want to make sure I don't forget it was curated by Colin Fay. Yep. Okay. All right. So the first story is by Danielle Navarro, who has been someone I followed for a long time. She's been pretty active in the art community and data science. She is a professor at UNSW Sydney, University of New South Wales. See, I spelled that out there because I knew I'd probably forget. And she's been, as of, I would say, almost a year now. I don't know how long ago she's been doing this. She's been doing generative art, which is really cool. And so this post has a lot of stuff in it, but she takes a deep dive into some of the techniques she does for actually producing the art from a technical standpoint, with some nice anecdotes thrown in of kind of her thought process and why she chose certain things. So of course, while we're doing this, I'm going to put the links to each of these in the chat as we go. So if you want to follow along with me, go right ahead. But there's a lot here, so I'm not going to read it all right now, but I'm going to kind of share or summarize it in a more kind of condensed story, so to speak, what I think the awesome parts are and what I think deserves mentioning. So you can see I've started some notes in here. And I when I do this, sometimes I literally write almost my entire script in this as if it was a blog post and I'm reading it. Other times I'll do bullet points with certain phrases and just hope I can kind of wing it out the rest of the way. So I'm kind of doing the bullet point method tonight, and we'll see if that makes it easier or harder. I don't know. So I started it with kind of a way I'll introduce it from my perspective, and how that I by no means am not an artist at all. I can barely draw a stick figure that looks legible. But there's always been some quotes in software development or development in general that, you know, there is obviously technical bits behind it. You have to be technically sound to produce a lot of, you know, innovative things. But when you're kind of assembling multiple things together in kind of a system, I think there's an art to that as well, because there's no right answer to these. And you can be pretty creative in that. And I have been kind of creative in certain ways. So that's about as close as I get to being an artist. But I will not dare think that I have anywhere near the talent as some of the brilliant people that have been producing art, not just in traditional means, but using things like R or even other languages to make generative art. And then that's where I'll start transitioning into talking about Danielle, who's been doing this for a bit and has done the great service to us of not only releasing her collection to the open, not all of it, but this one we're going to talk about is released in the open, but she's literally diving into some of the mechanics behind it. So that's why I'm going to take some leading artists, the art community over the last year, and has given us a great, I don't know if glimpse is the right word, but we'll go with that, into her flow for creating recent watercolors. Okay, so now that's the intro of it. Yeah, glimpse, right? I use that quite a bit, so I always like giving a little. I don't always do it on purpose, but you know, I'm a big fan of R, so anytime I can kind of work in little, maybe not so much puns, but little nuggets that if you're a fan of R, you'll pick up why I say the things I say. So that was an easy opportunity there. Now, oh, Tan, hello, welcome. This is a far different stream than what you're used to. Let me, I'll bring in the chat back, and always like to see what y'all have to say there. Whoops, wrong button. All right, now we're back. Yeah, the co-pilot, of course. Although, we'll see if you're a co-pilot for podcasting. If you're that, then I'm just gonna, you know, turn over everything to you at that point. Yeah, oh yeah, like the R News rock. Yeah, that's, you know, that's pretty cool. I like that. It's kind of funny, you know, yeah, well, you know, I'm always looking for people to join me on that R News at 11. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, in case you didn't notice, I busted out the podcasting mic for this stream because this does sound a lot better for a podcast episode than my one above me, which I use most of the time. So this is the XLR mic here. Okay, so the way that Danielle has structured this is she first gives us a glimpse of how she uses GitHub and Git for version control to actually, you know, host her artwork. That's a good idea, Unicorn Coder, a Twitter roundup. And in fact, we give a little tease to that because each curator does have a section of quotes of the week, although he only had one this week, where we kind of show some cool Twitter posts from the week about R. And this time, some of the Rio Nakagorora, another one of our curators, apparently had a lot of failures on Friday, which I can relate to. So that's a good idea. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of cool stuff we could get from Twitter. And frankly, I will find a lot of stuff on Twitter when it's my curation week. So it's a good idea. Okay, so this is the first, like, it's the first section, but I also think this one I resonate with a bit about using version control because guess what? Our weekly also uses Git and GitHub for everything, including a separate repo for the screenshots that we put in each issue so that we don't bloat the actual repo itself where all the content is. So I can relate to this from that standpoint. So the way I'm going to frame this part is that, you know, like any talented artist, all starts with the tools and the creative environment. I don't know, let's make it cheesy. I don't know. I'm just writing it out and see what happens. So may surprise some folks that Danielle is actually hosting her on GitHub. But that is something we are weekly very much to get your artwork. Yeah, love it, love it. And that she doesn't have just one monolithic repo. She has separate repos per series of artwork, or each collection of artwork. And that helps to, I think it helps her organize things slightly. And they're helpful for development as well. And then when she's ready to release them out, but it looks like it's a way to link to I can't even talk. In a simple way, if someone wants to see the bits behind a single collection, she can point them to a single repo for it. And it may be either just an archive or it's actually going to be accessed a lot. Yeah, so I want to spin this as she noticed that beginning, keeping the actual artwork in the same repo as the website was causing much longer build times and deploy times. Yeah, so nobody wants that, right? Like if you're doing all this hard work of creating something, whether it's art, whether it's an app, or whether it's, you know, a nice book or report, you don't want to have to wait a few hours just to get that darn thing released. So it looks like the fact that now that she can, with each collection as a separate repo, then she can simply link to relevant collection from the separate repo of the site. And this is where I'll tie it to our weekly project. We do the same workflow for us at Art Weekly. Each image is hosted in a separate repo from the main site repo. Okay, so again, just simple. I'm sure, well, she learned the hard way, but these things can really help. Yeah, I have no idea why I'm getting classical music. That's a remix. Wait, I know that song. I thought I did. Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts. Chrono Trigger. Is it Chrono Trigger? I think it is. Or is it Chrono Cross? Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts for a while. But anyway, okay, we'll move on. Chrono Cross, yeah. All right. Have to think for a bit. For those that don't know, when I was doing my dissertation, I listened to this kind of music to get me through it. So I always loved video game remixes. Okay, now comes the next part of the organization part is she does a great approach of having a manifest file. In this case, it's a CSV that basically gives it a way to take each image that's going to be used for the source of the artwork and the links. You can see that for this water cooler collection, it's got the series name, the short name of it, the format of it, and that this is a 1 row per file, and each column is a metadata piece. But what's nice about this is that it's a easy place for her to refer back to images or collections that she's done previously. And since these images are potentially on different repos, it's one place to kind of see where all that is. And there is some wrangling code that she links to. Okay, so read CSV, and it just simply does some mutating, nothing fancy. But hey, organization definitely helps. So I may or may not call that out in the actual summary, but it's related to getting yourself set up, you know, in the best chance for success as you're doing this. Oh, now I know. Okay, now I need to tie this into the cool package she did called BS4 Cards, which if you're running a site, whether it's Distill or Hugo in general, I think you can plug this into your site so you get these nice kind of like gallery-like thumbnails. In this case, they are linking to a different website or a different image. But it's a nice way to lay that out in a bootstrappy way. So you can display some of them in a nice and tidy thumbnail grid. Okay. And I can say like Danielle has also contributed some great tooling that all of us can use in our I'm going to say our markdown based sites. And if we aren't really into artists like her, PS4 Cards package. An easy way to generate clean and visually pleasing gallery of linked images. Okay, yeah, that'd be cool. So I'll give her props for the BS4 Cards package. Maybe I'll work in the manifest in there somehow. I don't know. Okay, so now we get to the meat of this. Oh, hey, Helen Hugh. Thanks for joining. You'll notice there won't be VS Code tonight because we're just doing a show note prep, and then we'll do the actual recording. So let's see. So now the dependencies part. So there's a lot of content here. And there's no way I can talk about all of it without like going over my self-imposed time limit. So I think the parts I want to highlight are some of the tooling that either the packages she's using or just the process around it, and how that can generalize to a lot of different things we do in our daily work. So the first thing is something that I've been a big fan of is, again, kind of a logistical thing of keeping track where things are. Yeah, this is like artistry or generative art, this highlight for sure. So it's a really cool post. So now we'll get into remainder of her post. Gives us the mechanics of how she starts from raw image and proceeds to create something magical all within R. So she mentions that she uses the rproj root package, and this, not many people use this one directly. They use the here package directly. Here is a wrapper to this package. She needed more fine control over trying to find the best working directory for a given collection. She said usually here is her most preferred method, but she said that she has kind of a hybrid of independent sub-projects. They each have their own root directory, maybe part of a bigger directory. There are parts that are like the blog content versus those that are like the actual post. So I guess the rproj root package is a way for her to be able to flip between like the root of the blog and the root of the collection. So starting off with her use of the rproj root package, which does not get as much press as the highly acclaimed here package, although rproj root is the engine behind that the here package. Using rproj root was beneficial to account for the hybrid directory structure of her blog and the associated collections. Okay, so I think that's a good summary of that one. And then now it's time to import the image. And this is where I really like this part because it is using the magic package. Magic package by Yaron Ooms is a wrapper to the image magic library, which I've been using on Linux for a very long time. And it can do almost anything you can think of the images, and magic is a great front end to it. It's very seamless, very effective. Oh, good. We beset Buddha. I'm glad that was a nice nugget for you to look at. And honestly, I didn't use rproj root myself either. I always use the here package, but it doesn't always solve all the problems. So hopefully that package is useful for you. In fact, just you all are actually helping this in many ways, but we'll make a note here to link to rproj root directly. I'm gonna tidy up the show notes. So, okay. All right. Once she finds the raw image that will serve as the canvas, it imports that image directly to our powerful magic package. I'm not going to spell his name right, but this is my show notes, so read. I don't know if this is the exact title, but close enough to me. Okay. So what's nice about the magic package and by proxy image magic is that you're offloading a lot of the image reading bits to this very highly performant library. I think it's compiled in C or C++. So your R session actually doesn't, isn't a huge deal. So I'm not sure what just happened with my app there. Okay, good. I didn't lose anything. So now we've got the image, but now it's time to make that become data in R so that you can start manipulating it with the generative art framework. And so the approach that she's taken here is to account for the fact that these are going to be basically matrices where you have, images are made of pixels in computers, right? So that the ith and jth entry of a matrix is kind of like that pixel and that coordinate. That you have this many pixels tall, this many pixels wide. That's going to be about what you have. So, but she makes some great caveats here, is that the interpretation of this is not your typical interpretation of a matrix in a data science context. It's not about just looking at it. It's how it's read. Is that apparently images are encoded in what's called a reading format. It's supposed to be read like a table or a list. But when you draw this with ggplot2 or some of the other packages, you have to kind of flip to another convention that has smaller numbers at the bottom. So this one, I probably can't dive too much into, other than the fact that she has accounted for the fact that the data from an image being read into R is in a slightly different layout than what you might do when you start translating that data into a ggplot. So I think that's how I'm going to kind of spin it. Data behind the image is organized matrix, and Danielle has written custom functions to account for the different layouts in terms of from what the image data appears to be versus the data to be plotted into ggplot2 later on. Okay. And then she translates that into a tibble, which is some of that. I admit, Tan, you have got me so hooked on making everything tibbles, and your clever use of, wait for it, pivot wider and all that stuff. It's always cool to see what others are doing with tibble and all that stuff. So she's got some nice functions to convert the matrix to a tibble. And she narrates through what that structure looks like. Nothing. A lot of the functions are built in. She just uses them in different ways. So, very cool. So basically these functions, the import of it, which is from Magic, the matrix, which is a custom function, and then the tibble, these three put together are the pre-processing to get it ready for ggplot2. So yeah, so I'll probably just verbally mention that, but now she mentions here that hex codes here. So I guess shade, I need to figure out what shade is. Oh, detains the hex code for a color. Yeah, duh. All right, so in this case, shade is in RGBA format. And Okay, I don't think I have to dive too much into that. There's an ID column. The unique identifies each row because she's going to have to join some custom sets together based on this ID. So that is important. Even though it's just like a row count here, you need to have some unique ID for each row. Okay. And now the ggplot portion begins. And now she's got a nice kind of base ggplot kind of frame, if you will, with this custom function to get rid of the stuff that you're not going to need for an art piece, which of course is no axis labels, no title, anything like that. So basically stripping the theme out of all this stuff. So next comes actual art generation, containing begins with giving the plot to a stripped down theme to remove unnecessary elements. So she doesn't have to copy paste this every time it's a function, so she can just add it here in the pipe to from the data set, ggplot theme, and then simply work on the geom. So first she does geom tile, which gives this kind of pixelated look at the image that she's using. Now, she's saying that she learned this the hard way, that it should be fill and not color, because if you do color, you end up with something like this, which actually isn't that bad if you want to look at kind of a interesting pattern here, but that's not what she was going for. So she may do some stuff with that later. So knowing the right aesthetic for the geom is important here. And then she pivoted from tile to point, which is kind of like a mix of the two, I guess. So geom point with color equals shade gave her a kind of I guess in her mind, a more pleasing appearance. And at this point, as she says here, there's been no color change here. So now comes the part where yet again another cool function to she wants to extract the different channels of color and then be able to tweak them a little bit. So their base R has a call to RGB function that is able to get the red, green, and blue channels from the hex code and then bake those integers. I remember this from my troubleshooting in the past between 0 and 255. And then another function to get that into hue and saturation and value format. So, well, hey, Monica. Yeah, I am. Glad you could join me. This is the prep work for my eventual recording of the podcast to be released tomorrow morning. So I'm basically reading through this and kind of getting my bullet points for the recording. And this post is a doozy. The author of this has done a lot of comprehensive work, and I know I can't cover all of it, but I want to get like the main takeaways from it. And frankly, just how cool it is. So I want to make sure I emphasize that. And then creativity begins to take shape here. Don't wing it. Oh, you know, you can probably appreciate this, but anybody that produces their own content are by far their harshest critic. And there were about 2 or 3 episodes where I did literally try to wing it without show notes in front of me. And even with all the editing I had to do, you can kind of tell the difference. So I learned that. I'm not going to say what numbers they are. That's an exercise for all of you to figure out. Yeah, 56 choices to choose from there. So now I want to say that this is where she starts to use her creativity by trying out different geomes to see what resonates with her based on the data of the image. In this case, she's settled with a geome point of the color aesthetic, but the other ones she tried may have led to more, to unique results. I don't know, I'll clean that up later. All right, so now extracting the color channels. And the key part here is that this allows more customization. So you can kind of see in this tibble at the end here, the result of these functions, you get the red, green, and blue values from the RGB. You can get the hue, the saturation, and the val. What is val supposed to be here? Value format. Oh, okay, there's a supplemental link here. I love it when they hyperlink to more deeper dives. So HSL and HSV, hue, saturation, value. Well, I don't have time to really dive into that tonight, but I'll take her word for it that that's cool stuff. To make some real magic of the colors, she next utilizes functions already part of the base art installation. Translate hex code into RGB and RSV metrics. Opening possibilities of some real, I want to throw some art fun in here. I keep saying creative too much. To give the art more personality. I don't know. That may be too cheesy. Who knows? So then she walks through kind of the cool things you can do with this information. One of them is what's called halftone images, or it's kind of like if you had those old dot matrix printers, like when I was growing up, you could print one like that. But we're now using real printers, and obviously we don't want to confine ourselves to that. But she kind of did something a little different. She played with the HSV values. Now she's got this. Takes care of the hue and saturation, combines them with a constant intensity value. Output is a new color. Okay, so it's kind of like a mix between that monochrome-like looking black and white appearance and now some different saturation. Then there's an interlude to how she chooses the image. She said she had a lot of personal connections to these. Because that's a very personal thing, apparently, how you, well, hey, I'm on TV, huh? Unicorn Coder, that's cool. I've always wanted to do that, but whenever my kids see me put my stuff on the TV, they immediately change it to Minecraft stuff. Not that I'm bitter or anything. All right. And then what she does next is give it a different, I guess, structure to the image, and that's through multi-dimensional noise generation. Oh yeah, I did joke that they could watch me do the racing on the big screen, but they don't do it. They just want to sit on my lap and try to take my controller and make sure I don't get first place for some reason. But anyway, that's another story. So there's a lot of cool tricks you can do to generate noise, but the part I want to summarize here is that this is a little more complex, yet it's the same idea that you take the data frame of your points and then you... Boy, I'm having a tough time figuring out. So there's more to the function here. I gotta skim through this a little bit. Okay, so if we have a grid of points here, then there's a shift to kind of shift them in time. Control the size of the transparent. Oh, okay, so it's kind of like the next pop run. Yeah, good luck with that. So I guess these three functions are now changing the coordinates a little bit of each of the points and doing it in kind of creative, non-linear ways. Gosh, I'm really butchering this, but that's how I kind of take it, is that points argument takes a data frame that contains the X and Y. Okay, so we have that. Frequency is the scale of the noise. Does it change a lot? Octaves come on the fractalness. Okay, well, apparently my notebook thing is not nice right now. It keeps having conflicts for some reason. Let me check something a second. Hold on. Do I have it in a separate tab? No, I don't. Okay, anyway. Alright. Okay. I need some additional variety. Daniel walks us through the process of introducing noise to the image, gives the in essence shuffles the position of points with customization around the scale and pattern of the changes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything better than that right now. So she recognizes that that was an iterative way of doing it, but she found the accumulate package from her. She really likes that, is that it iterates through in a rolling fashion that transformation on the points data frame, so that you don't have to like call it one by one, varying a different pattern each time, but it turns into something like this, where she has a function called iterate, and she accumulates that dot x is the rep for the step in time. The function is shift, And the initial data set or the initial object is the one that's supplied. So, okay. And rather than having a bunch manual calls to perform the iterative noise transformations, she uses the underappreciated accumulate function from her. Something I will definitely try out in my work. See, that's another one of those hidden gems, is this accumulate function. Okay, so this is kind of like the bringing it all home, so to speak, is that she takes this noise layer, and that's what it's. So it's not really the same image, although, well, kind of it is. But she joins it with a color data frame, and then we get this. Hold on. No, it's this. Okay. So I skimmed through a lot, but this is the kind of part where I know I can't like cover all of what's happening here. But the point is that I'm just gonna say the post concludes with Danielle merging the manipulated color data as well as the noise positioning sets with additional customization to produce a final product that bears some similarity with the original watercolor, but with its own personality that was all driven by R itself. Well, R and a brilliant artist behind the keyboard. Okay. All of the code for the functions is available on her GitHub repo. And now I have a excellent resource in case I feel adventurous enough to create generative art. And if you can't get enough generative art, and this is where I want to plug into the resource I heard about earlier this week, is this one right here. I'll put this in the chat as well in case you want to look at this with me. That is, oops. Who's the author? Kara Thompson set up a bot with GitHub Actions and R, a Twitter bot, to tweet out generative art pieces. Is it every day? I can't remember how often it does. It would be, a new piece of generative art every day. That's pretty slick. So I want to plug that into the end of my summary there. Go on to check out a new Twitter bot offered by Kara Thompson, which tweets how they knew at Art East Daily, which was built entirely with R and executed with actions. We'll link to that in the show notes. All right, that summarizes the first story. So that was easily the most complex one. So what? That took us about an hour and change. Welcome to my life. So we're moving on. We are now doing a huge shift, if you will, to a time tracking package. I don't know how you segue into that cleverly, but we're going to find out. So first, let's read about this a little bit. This is called Clockify, time tracking with R. The author of this is... I wrote them down over here. Hold on. Oh, Data Wookie. I gotta get his name. Hold on. I know I wrote this somewhere. Why didn't I put it here? Okay. Yeah. Tan. Guess what? That segue's going into the episode recording for sure. Now it is time to... Yep, I'm literally copying that. For our next highlight today. Haha! Love it. Alright, I gotta get this person's name. I feel bad about that. Oh, Andrew Collier. Okay. I've seen his stuff before. I never... I need to just write his name down so I don't screw that up. I always like to say what their profession is if I can get to that, so... Oh, tea time. Oh, nice, Monica. Which reminds me I should hydrate now. If all goes according to plan, by the way, and if I'm able to stream again tomorrow night and maybe even Thursday night, that might push me to the affiliate level. I don't know. I'm really close. Really close. All right, so we're going to say he's a data scientist. At Fathom Data. Okay. Now I've got that contact info there. Oh, rats, I shouldn't need to close that. Okay, so I want to lead this off with kind of a, well, I don't know how others think about this, but, or if they have to deal with this, but every month we have to do time entry at the day job, and it's pretty annoying. Well, I mean, it's not as annoying as it was before. They've kind of changed the system a little bit, but it's always one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, here we go again kind of thing. And then you have to kind of think back to what did I work on that week? So for those that maybe haven't been through this, at some companies, at the end of each month, you have to like allocate out of all the working hours you had, how you spent them. And more specifically, did you spend it on maybe a given project area? Maybe it was more about learning. Maybe it was more about external things or things like that. Now, every company does it differently, but you kind of have to have a sense of what you worked on, because they use that to sometimes make decisions on, oh, this person's working this much in this type of project or in this type of area, and that's either a good thing or it means they need help and they need to hire more people. It's not the most fun part of the job, but I want to use that as like a hook to say, well, if you're gonna have to do time entry anyway, why not actually track it with R and have fun with it? So, by the way, Tony, welcome. Glad you could drop by. For those that aren't aware, Tony is a fellow curator at our weekly. So he just had a issue a few weeks ago. I forgot when, but yep, glad to have you here. For some, myself included, we need to summarize the hours spent at our daily work. Sometimes in a really granular fashion. It's not the most glamorous part of the job, but it is important nonetheless. So, if we have to do it anyway, why not do it with our favorite programming language? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. Now, I tried, I know, I struggle with that a little bit, Tony, because sometimes I feel like it might be annoying to all of you, but I know from my personal experience, it can slip, or especially if you're got other things going on. I was tempted to remind Colin about it, but he got it out on Monday, so that was good. But yeah, I even thought about, this is overkill. Should I do a version of ShinyCal just for us at our weekly? I don't know. We have that Google Sheet that gives us our dates, but why not anyway? That's right. He was doing that. That whatever. Yeah, he's a running machine now. I see his tweets about it. It's like, yeah, I'm way too old to keep up with him now. So, anyway, okay. So, thanks. Thanks to... Okay, so now I can... And data science is a Fathom data. We can do just that. With the new Clockify package. This package is a wrapper to the Clockify API, that being a, let me just pull up their site here just to get familiar with it. Clockify time tracker service with an API that is used by the package. Okay. All right. So let's see what is what's kind of the meat of this. So it's saying they use this because he works at looks like a consulting company, Fathom Data. So this is where that stuff really becomes important, because this is part of your billing if you're a consulting company or a consulting group. And you have to give that bill to the clients and show them, you know, these are the hours we spent on this part of the project or on this part. That can be a big deal with all the contracts that are signed for it. So I listen to some software development podcasts that talk about that. So it's always cool to hear about that. This is just the installation stuff. Storing the variable and API key. Uses workspaces. There's a default one. This person has, Andrew has 2 of them, personal and work. We have users for each workspace. You can get clients. Okay, so clients is like, I guess, the group you're supporting, and then you have a list of projects. By the way, you notice how they have the output here of like showing the timestamp of each request? This package is using the logger package. I need to jot that down now before I forget. Package is very solid. Oh, that's a bad way to say it. After brief setup with the necessary API key, package has an intuitive interface to the key endpoints of the API, complete with informative logging messages powered by the logger package. And now my nightlight just went out. This is why we have standbys. Hold on. I have 3 of these, by the way. There we go. Joys of on the fly. Oh, luckily they're sleeping now, I hope. Although we just had thunder here, so who knows. Okay, so powered by the logger package. Then you change the log threshold. That's part of the log threshold. Or, yeah, okay. So then it's capturing the time entries. How much time am I spending? Yeah, this is where you start to see, you know, the importance of a package like this is it's going to give you that finer detail. You can get it by the user ID, by the project, and even a concise. Okay, insert time entry. Okay. Delete an entry. Okay, so basically it's got all the functionality you need to actually do this in practice. So I'm not gonna read all the functions verbatim. But everything you would expect to have available in a package. I cannot type. Like this is here, complete with ability to track projects with collaborative users in a given workspace. Yeah, this is basically it. Don't know if it's exciting or not, but this is literally what I was going to do tonight, so you just all get to see it live. And easy ways to obtain duration spent on different tasks and projects. Okay. So I admit the one thing that would be nice about a package like this is if you ran a function to, quote, start the tracking, and then if there was another function to stop the tracking, which would automatically compute the time basically between the start and the stop, and then you could enter that into the system. I know this is a little different. This is kind of like adding it after the fact, but that would have been the icing on the cake. But as it is, I think it's good enough. But it doesn't get away from the human element of being disciplined to do this, so I need to make a note of that. Certainly, this is a huge help for keeping more detailed estimates of time spent on projects, although we still will have to have discipline to stick with this approach. Now, I speak that from experience because I used to use, of all things, an Excel spreadsheet that a coworker gave me that had some fancy stuff in it to kind of keep all that track, and then I gave up on it, so I don't really have a clever system other than going back to my calendar, the work calendar, and be like, okay, I had a meeting about this day, and I had a empty time this or what project I was on. So the human element doesn't get taken away by this, but certainly it helps in the right direction. Trying to see if there are any nuggets here that I need to call out here. Well, of course, my takeaways on these are that anytime we can automate some mundane things, or at least close to automate it, it's a win for everybody. I will be checking this package out more and keeping an eye on future enhancements, as this is meeting a big need for a good portion of us that may not always keep track of these details as organized as we'd like. Automate the boring stuff in Python. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, both Python and R can definitely automate a heck of a lot of things. So, okay, I'm pretty happy with that summary. And now the last one. The 4 pipes of Magritte. This one's the shortest of all, so I probably won't have to have too much content about this. Okay, first the author. We gotta find that. I wrote their name down somewhere else, but I forgot where I put it. Oh, I did. Oh, it's up here in the tweet thing because they don't have a Twitter account. Gregory Janusz. I don't know. Oh, hey, Cedar Prince. Welcome. How are you doing? Glad you could join us. This is not so much a coding stream tonight. This is the prep work I do for a podcast I'm going to release tomorrow morning, and then you may hear me record it live once I get these notes together. figured I'd have fun with it this time around instead of just me doing it all by myself. I have a cool audience this time. So, okay, so that's their name. They are a data scientist. Okay. Yeah, glad you are. And I saw you were pretty active on the streamer Discord as well. I'm glad to have you on that. Okay, the McGreeter package. So McGreeter's obviously nothing new in the art community. It's the pipe that's been the foundation of much of the tidyverse. And everybody knows about the basic one if you've been using this. But what they don't know is the other operators. Well, Unicorn Coder, yeah, if you're obviously welcome to contribute anything you'd like. So whatever you like. Let me know if you have thoughts in the chat or whatever you had in mind. Always happy to have the help. Okay, the Grand Pet, yeah, okay. So the way I want to lead off with this, and Tidyverse has been built upon many solid foundations over the years, and arguably the first important piece was the concept of pipeable flows between parameters and functions made possible by the reader package. Authored by, okay, McGreeter was originally authored by, what's her name? I don't, it's Stefan. I think Stefan is how to say it. Milton Bach? I never actually said it out loud to people, so who knows. Oh yeah, Cedar Prince, I'm glad you asked. This is, well, on the right side, what you're seeing here is an app called Standard Notes. I will look it up for you now. Put a link in the chat once I get the link here. This is a Markdown-based kind of well, not so much collaborative, but it's a Markdown-based service where you can put all of your notes in Markdown format. It's backed up to, quote unquote, the cloud and their service, but you can add extensions to it if you go the premium route. And I've added a few extensions to mine to give it a different theme, but it's a way that I can sync this across all my devices. So I can sync it to my Linux computer I'm on right now, my work computer, my Linux laptop, my Android phone, my iPhone from work, and even just get into the web portion of it on the website. So it's an Electron-based app, but it works really well. And I like software that literally accounts for the fact that I have a very dynamic compute environment these days. And I can look at these notes no matter what device I'm on and jot things down or quickly grab a link somewhere. And also all of my notes on setting up OBS and everything like that is in my Standard Notes installation. So that is even my pager too. Yeah, everything is here. Absolutely. So yeah, I think it's worth it. I'll definitely keep plugging it if people ask. So Okay. Magrider. Those are familiar with the, what do we call it? With the basic pipe itself, seen prominently in many diverse resources, but there are also some really handy additional operators that can greatly simplify your workflow. Has shined a spotlight, shined, there's a pun, on these additional operators on his blog for our last highlight. Okay. So the first one, I've used this occasionally. The first, after a nice summary of the base, the basic pipe, Gregory gives a concise example of how the T pipe, I better put the notation in here because I call it out. It's T greater than sign percent. Okay. Okay, so the way this works is after you want to do something for kind of a side effect. Yeah, T. Yeah, exactly. You're doing something for a side effect, but then you want to keep going with the regular pipe to kind of go through the rest of it. So that's kind of what I'm going to mention here. Gives you a easy way to produce what may be called a side effect for a given parameter, such as a plot, but still keep within a pipeline and not have to exit out to create temporary objects. Maybe that's something like that. Have I ever tried Vim or Emacs? Oh, yeah, great question, Cedar Prince. I actually use Vim daily. I actually have experimented with NeoVim, which has a really cool plugin for R. And I got pretty close to configure it the way I wanted to, but I admit I'm not proficient in it yet. I actually have a book called is it WTF Vim or something like that? It's a pretty cool book. It's got a funny title to it, but it's on my kind of learning journey to be as proficient with Vim and NeoVim as I am with VS Code and RStudio, because Vim is the one thing I can count on a Linux HPC server that I probably don't have web access to, and I need to do something quick. Maybe I have to run R interactively on that. It is amazing the power you can do with this. Yeah, it's called NVimR, I believe. Let's look that up. That's a I always like talking about this. I think it's NVimR. Yep, this is the one. The Vim plugin to work with R, and honestly, it works even better with NeoVim. Yep, so I'll put that in the chat. This is the one that I tried before. It's still being actively maintained, apparently, so that's good. But I just never... There's only been like a couple people in the R community that I've seen actively talk about it. Nobody's really streamed it, how to set up with it yet. But, what's her name? Errol Wong. I think she's in Australia. She's the author of a lot of those tidy time series packages. She, I met her at RStudio Conf a few years ago, and I knew she was really using Vim and NeoVim a lot. And I remember meeting her the first time. I was like, first, I'm a huge fan of your work. And second, could I at least see parts of your config file? Because I was trying to set it up and I could never get it right. And she did send it to me eventually. I haven't really gone much further with it, but she's been one I respect. So Cedar Prince, sounds like you're using R NeoVim as well. Well, if you have a repo with your config file, that would be awesome, because I'd love to see how you set it up and that. So it is on my list for sure to do. So good stuff. Good stuff. Where was I? Let's go back to the post here. Yeah. So I think I summarized the T pipe pretty effectively. Now this one's a little odd here. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Cedar Prince. I will definitely be checking that out. I'll open the link now so I have it. Yep, got it. Thank you very much. All right. The exposition pipe. So what this does... Okay, so this is like for some functions that don't have a data argument. The kaboom pipe. Yeah, I like that. I think I might actually use that. Next comes an operator that was a head scratcher for me when I first heard about it. And that is the exposition pipe. Or some might call it the kaboom pipe. Aha. The idea behind this is if you have a function that doesn't have a data frame argument, you can use this operator to avoid having to prefix the names of variables in names of variables with the data frame name in your calls to these functions. For example, the general plot function. Yeah, that's the idea, is we're going to have little Easter eggs for all of you that have stuck with me this live. I figure we'll make it fun. I'll also mention the core function. All right. Okay, and lastly comes an operator that... Now I'm gonna do a little hot take here. Some view is a little controversial, and that is the assignment type. this operator frees you from having to reassign a variable with a new result, and instead can simply call this as if you were automatically reassigning the variable. This can be handy, but it could cause some debugging issues if it is used too much. Now again, I'm going to emphasize, that's just my opinion, but I can still see the value of this one in certain situations. Okay. I honestly, when I have done this one before, I've never had good luck with it, so that's why I was like, eesh, not really. But it is always great to see members of the art community who are users of great packages like MagReader give a little, or share their perspectives and reveal portions that do not get discussed as much. I'm sure package authors greatly appreciate the extra. Appreciate these posts, and I tried to do my way of share. Nah, I don't need to say that much, as it greatly helps a user base. Word count, not really, but I kind of get the sense of how far I can go with each of these. And some of these I will read verbatim, and some I might just shortcut a little bit. But I think that's good enough for that one. So now we're going to do the wrap up. And this is, I have a pretty standard syntax for this, but all I do now is I look at what happens is in the Art Weekly team, we have a set of posts that we're able to choose from 10 of them, and then we vote on the 3 that we think should be highlighted. So obviously there are some that don't make the cut for the highlight, but they're still in the issue, and I always mention a few of them at the wrap-up, so I'm going to put them here. One of them was updated version of the geocomputation with R, 2nd edition. Let me put that up here. Got feedback. Yeah, I don't really summarize this post. I just kind of mention them a little bit. Let me look at what else got some votes here. All right. Next one I'll mention is tracking download statistics for our packages. That one is from This one from the NHSR community blog. They've been doing some great meetups, I believe, in England or UK, and that they got some good content there. So, okay, Unicorn Coder, you're asking, should I post the idea for a podcast on GitHub? It's a good question. The way you can give me feedback on that, let me go to the podcast link. I don't have a GitHub for our weekly highlights, but what I do have is a contact page, and you can just send this here, and then I'll get an email of your idea. So feel free to use that if you have feedback on this. That'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, and then the last one that I'll do here is this is a cool post about kind of the mistakes you'll make in data science or R, I think. I know it's not loading right now. Don't know why that's not loading yet. Oh, there it goes. Oh, the types of R warnings. That's cool. We can collect them all, tweet us of our stats of virtual high fives. Oh yeah, that's a cool one. I'll put this in the chat here if you all want to look at that. All right. I'll just mention here that's a light-hearted take on the various mistakes you might encounter in your R work. Okay. Or in your R sessions. All right. Guess what? I think we're ready. So we're almost 2 hours in this, and only now am I going to be recording. So whenever you hear people say that the actual recording of the podcast itself is like the least time-consuming part, now you know why. It took about 2 hours for show prep. All right, we ready? Let's rock and roll. Now, I'm going to expand this a bit so I can have a bigger screen. We're going to kind of look at this together. Some parts I'll read verbatim, some parts I won't, and some parts I'm going to flub for sure, and then we'll see. All right. Okay. I'm from Michigan, so I like that reference, Unicorn Coder. All right. Okay, I'm going to make a mental note of what time I'm at in this whole stream here. We are about, almost 2 hours in, so let me make a note on our... I'm just going to put the editing notes on here, because obviously this is different than what I usually do. Usually I don't hit record until I'm ready to actually read it, but I've been recording this whole time. Episode starts at about 1 hour and 54. I'll just say 53 minutes. Okay. Okay. So we're going to turn the music off because this is the part where we're actually going to record this. Okay. Now it's just like I usually do in the real practice. Hopefully the levels are sounding good. I always do like the sound check at this point. So give myself a countdown, whether it's myself or not. Get a little moment of silence for it. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 57 of the R Weekly Highlights podcast. My name is Eric Nance, and I'm so delighted that you've been tuning in wherever you are in the world. We greatly appreciate it. This is a unique experience because I am actually recording this live on Twitch. And a big thank you to those that have been tuning in live to see this happen. This week's issue was curated by Colin Fay with help from the R Weekly team members and contributors. While I am in a very science-based field, there are a few times that when I'm scoping out a fairly sophisticated analysis tool that touches, say, different R packages, maybe internal and external APIs, and perhaps even some intricate user experience requirements, that there's not just the technical side of building it, there's also an artistic side as well, as I get to flex at least a little creativity muscle, so to speak, for tying these things together. But I certainly won't pretend to have any semblance to being a very talented creator of art, or in particular, generative art. However, Danielle Navarro, computational cognitive scientist and assistant professor at the University of New South Wales in Australia, has been one of the leading generative artists in the art community over the last year, and has given us a great glimpse into her workflow for creating her recent watercolor series, part of our first highlight for today. Like any talented artist, it all starts with the tools and the creative environment. It may surprise some folks that Danielle is actually hosting her art on GitHub, but that is something that us at R Weekly can certainly relate to. She noticed that in the beginning of her journey with creating generative art, that keeping the actual artwork in the same repository as the website caused much longer build times and deployment times. But with each collection as a separate repository, she can simply link to the relevant collection from that separate repo of the main site. That is similar to the workflow we have at R Weekly, where each image that you see in the issue is actually hosted in a separate GitHub repository compared to the main site repository. Danielle has also contributed some great tooling that all of us can use in our R Markdown-based sites, even if we aren't brilliant artists like her, with her BS4 cards package, an easy way to generate clean and visually pleasing gallery of linked images. The remainder of her post gives us the mechanics of how she starts from a raw image and proceeds to create something magical, all within the confines of R. Starting with her use of the rproj root package, which does not get as much press as the highly acclaimed here package, although rproj root is the engine behind the here package. Using rproj root was beneficial to account for the hybrid directory structure of her blog and the associated collections. The data behind the image is organized in a matrix, and Danielle has written custom functions to account for the different layouts from which the image data appears to be versus the data to be plotted in ggplot2 later on. Next comes the actual art generation, which begins with giving ggplot2 a stripped-down theme to remove unnecessary elements. Creativity begins to take shape by trying out different geomes to see what resonates with her based on the data of the image. In this case, she settled with the geome point geome with the color aesthetic, but the other ones she tried may have led to unique results if she chose to go in those directions. To make some real magic of the colors, she next utilizes functions already part of the base R installation to translate a hex code into RGB and RSV metrics, opening the possibilities of creating images with more personality. To bring some additional variety, Danielle walks us through the process of introducing noise to the image, which in essence shuffles the position of points with customization around the scale and pattern of the changes, and rather than having a bunch of manual calls to perform the iterative noise transformations, she uses the underappreciated accumulate function from the per package, something that I will definitely try out in my work. The post concludes with Danielle merging the manipulated color data as well as the noise positioning sets with additional customizations to produce a final product that bears some similarity with the original watercolor, but with its own personality that was all driven by R itself. Well, R and a brilliant artist behind the keyboard. All of the code for the functions is available on their GitHub repo, and now I, along with all of you, have an excellent resource in case I feel adventurous enough to create generative art. And if you can't get enough generative art these days, you'll want to check out a new Twitter bot authored by Kara Thompson, which tweets out a new generative art piece daily, which was built entirely with R and executed with GitHub Actions. We will have a link to that in this episode's show notes. One down, two to go. And now it is time to switch to a time tracking package for our next highlight today. For some, myself included, we often need to summarize the hours spent at our daily work, sometimes in a really granular manner. It's not the most glamorous part of the job, but it is important nonetheless. So if we have to do it anyway, why not do it with our favorite programming language for data science? Well, thanks to Andrew Collier, data scientist at Fathom Data, we can do just that with the new Clockify package. This package is a wrapper to the Clockify time tracking service online with an API that is used by the package. After a brief setup with the necessary API key, the package has an intuitive interface to the key endpoints of the API, complete with informative logging messages powered by the underappreciated Logger package. Everything you would expect to have available in a package like this is here, complete with the ability to track projects with collaborative users in a given workspace, and easy ways to obtain durations spent on different tasks and projects. Certainly, this is a huge help for keeping more detailed estimates of time spent on projects, although you still will have to have discipline to stick with an approach like this. But I will be checking out this package out more and keep an eye out on future enhancements, as this is certainly fulfilling a big need for a good portion of us that may not always keep track of these details as organized as we'd like. Two down, one to go. Hi, Afton. The tidyverse has been built upon many solid foundations over the years, and arguably the first important piece was the concept of pipeable flows between parameters and functions, made possible by the Magrider package, authored by Stefan Milton Bach. I hope that's right. Most are familiar with the basic pipe itself, seen prominently in many tidyverse resources. But there are also some really handy additional operators that can greatly simplify your workflow. Data scientist Gregory Janesh has shined a spotlight on these additional operators on his blog for our last highlight of today. After a nice summary of the basic pipe, Gregory gives a concise example of how the T pipe gives you an easy way to produce what may be called a side effect for a given parameter, such as a plot, but still keep within a pipeline and not have to exit out to create temporary objects. Next comes an operator that was a head scratcher for me when I first heard about it, and that is the exposition pipe, or some might call it the kaboom pipe. The idea behind this is that if you have a function that doesn't have a data frame argument, you can use this operator to avoid having to prefix the names of variables with the data frame name in your calls to these functions. For example, the general plot function or the core function for producing correlations. Lastly, comes an operator that some view as a little controversial, and that is the assignment pipe. This operator frees you from having to reassign a variable with a new result, and instead can simply call this as if you are automatically reassigning the variable. Now, this can be handy, but it could cause some debugging issues if used too much. That's just my opinion, but I can still see the value of this in certain situations. It is always great to see members of the R community who are users of great packages like McReader share their perspectives and reveal portions that do not necessarily get discussed as much in the open. I'm sure package authors greatly appreciate these posts, as it greatly helps a user base get to know some of the hidden gems of these great packages. And those are your R Weekly highlights for today. Colin, in between what appeared to be running a big marathon, has curated a great issue for us, and that has many excellent resources available for you to entertain your R-tastic ways, such as feedback on the updated version of the Geocomputation with R 2nd edition book, tracking download statistics for R packages, and a lighthearted take on the various mistakes you might encounter in your R sessions. And before I go further and wrap up this episode, I want to give a huge shout out to the viewers that are watching, or I should say listening on this stream right now, that have actually been a big help in me assembling the notes for this very podcast recording. And if you are inspired by the great content of our weekly, we would love to have you join our group. You can find complete details on joining us linked at the top of each issue released on rweekly.org. We welcome all levels of contributions, whether it's highlighting a great blog post that you've seen online, giving us a link to a new resource that we can grab automatically in our live feed, or becoming one of our curators in our I'm going to do that part again. Or becoming a curator and joining us on assembling all of this great content. Well, have a fantastic week, and we will be back with another batch of our weekly highlights next week. Done. So, not as many flubs as usual. So I think, honestly, y'all helped a lot. Very good to have y'all be a part of that. And that means less editing for me, hopefully, anyway. Now I'm going to try some daring here. We'll see if it works. Okay, started recording again. Now, I'm just curious if this will work or not. We'll see. Yeah, I did that on purpose. I put the music on. I'm done with the actual recording of the episode itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if I can grab that file that I just stopped. Okay. Yep, I found it. And now this could either break things or it could work fantastically. I'm going to show all of you the software I use to do the actual podcast editing, and usually the recording too, but this time I used OBS to do it. It's called Reaper. Now, after I launch this, I'm going to need some help for you to verify you still hear me after this, so let's see. Okay. I did not see any levels of my mic when okay. I closed it. I hope you can hear me now. Still can't hear me? Let me, okay, good. All right, so why that happened. Reaper is an audio editing software used by musicians professionally. The issue is that it completely takes over all my sound inputs when I launch it if I have like things like OBS running. But there's another program that won't do that, I hope. Let's find out. It is called... Let's see. Oh, it is called Audacity. Are you all still able to hear me? Hopefully you are. It looks good on my end. But we are going to use this to trim. I have the Audacity, yeah. There's been a little controversy around it, but for things like this, it'll be fine. Okay, I'm gonna open up that file. I think I just need one track. Okay, this is gonna take a little bit of time, so I'm gonna explain what I'm about to do here. All I want to do here is edit out basically the first hour and 50 some minutes, get it to like that end part, and then edit out the flubs that we heard occasionally in there. Well, that's odd. I'm getting running out of space air. So I'm guessing there's some shenanigans going on there. Okay. Thanks for the timestamp, Unicorn Coder. That is very helpful. I just realized that I think my home directory on my Linux box is running out of space or something because... No, it's not a memory thing. I think it's a space thing because I have a partition for the hard drive. There's a second hard drive in here, but Audacity doesn't know about it. So I'm guessing that messed things up. Let me think of another clever way around this. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. I think I have messed something up. Now I'm getting a message on bad file space. Okay, we're about to do some real-time Linux debugging, folks. This is, let's see, it's probably in my Audacity temp directory. So it is Audacity's fault. Let's put it that way. While that's going, let's do this. Now, there's a lot of junk here, but what we want to look at here is the... where's my home mounted at? Good grief. Okay, here it is. Well then. 0%, huh? Okay. Let's see. What is the problem here? There was that Audacity file that just got messed up. Okay. I'm doing some frantic debugging here. Somebody here is trouble. You know what we're gonna do? We are simply going to we're gonna wipe out that Audacity directory. Let's see if that's freed up some space. No, we're still at 100. Where am I? Where am I? No, still 431. Okay, we gotta start trimming space. Okay. This is not what I expected to do tonight. I probably have a bunch of videos here. Oh yeah, I got a bunch of temp stuff in here that doesn't need to be here. Let's sort that again. Is that LS? Ah, I wanted the H with it. Ah. That's like rocks taking up space. Yeah, maybe so. Well, we got the... You know what? What am I doing here? Something's just easier to get a file thing for this. Alright. Videos. Where is... Oh yeah, oh yeah, all these... I copied these already. I got all the USAR 2021 videos, so we're gonna get rid of that. So I have on my NAS. Alright. Size. Yeah, I have all this. This will free up a bunch of space. Alright. Test. Got the hotshot racing already. Okay, this should help a bit. Alright. Let's see if my, we still show the... Okay, you can see we've got 29 gig available, so we definitely freed up some stuff there. Let me see if there's any over here that could be a culprit here. So somewhere in that Audacity stuff, there are some bad temp files, but... Let me see anything here. No. Yeah, that's good enough. Good enough. Wow, that was a lot of... That could have been worse. That could have been worse. Let's see, anything else I can... There's ways in Linux to see what the breakdown is on a per directory basis, but I forgot what it was. So good thing my my Linux racing friends aren't watching me right now. They'd be screaming at their key or their screen right now, like, Eric, run this command. I forgot. NDF FDU. No, it wasn't that. Anyway, yeah, I know, Monica, you're still here. You're probably being like, oh, what is he doing here? The LSL, like I can. There's a clever program that lets you see like the spaces each directory takes. Yeah. But we're fine. I freed up enough so my system's not going to crash. So in other words, that means that I'm probably not going to show you the editing tonight because that file is just way too large. But what we'll do is we'll probably stop here because I've done the hard work. The hard work was the prep work and the recording. And then tomorrow morning, I will post the real version. And then it will be announced on Twitter probably tomorrow morning sometime. So, well, that was probably my longest live stream ever. But that's exactly what I do. I do this kind of prep work. And it's usually done in one night. Sometimes I space it over 2 nights, but this time I had to get it done tonight. But we got it. So that was fun. Hopefully it was useful for all of you to kind of see what happens and when people do these podcasts endeavors. So, well, yeah, you'll be able to catch the VOD on YouTube after. I'll have that out tomorrow as well. So it was maybe if all you enjoyed it, I'm doing this every week, so we'll see. Yeah, now you have some podcasting sausage to go over whatever other things you have. So, all right. Well, if you, as always, if you want to get in touch with me, certainly give me a shout on Twitter. That's the easiest way. And also definitely join our Discord for streamers that I think I have the chat command for. Yep, there it is there if you want to join that. And I'll be posting there from time to time. And we've had some good sharing of knowledge in light of recent events especially. And it's nice to know that my defense measures have worked tonight, and hopefully they keep working for all of you as well. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's easy to find, let's put it that way. But got lucky tonight, I think. All right, so if everything goes to plan, I'll be back again tomorrow night. Definitely not as long as tonight, but either doing some shiny stuff or some other random R things that strike my fancy. So with that, I will bid you all good night and have a great rest of your night. And hopefully hump day tomorrow is easy for all of you. So take care. We will see you next time. Bye, everybody.